Hi guys, and welcome to lecture 11 of Python programming with me, Mace. So in this lecture we're going to be going over classes, and in the last lecture we did go over functions, and functions are quite an important part of classes, but we'll go over that later in this video. So you can see that I've got a class here. It's called student, and another similarity between functions and classes is the syntax, and in a way they're quite related. However, there are some differences. So I have this class here called student, and you may be wondering what makes student a good example. And you need to understand what classes actually do first. So classes can define objects. Classes can have properties and methods. If you take something from your daily life, for example, so let's take a car. A car can have properties, and a car can have, one of its properties could be color, model, brand, make, wheel color, so on. So properties are what that car has, and is unique to that car. Methods, on the other hand, are things that the object can do. So the car can accelerate, deaccelerate, swerve, fall, do lots of fancy stuff. So the car can also do things, and they're called methods. The behaviors of that car are methods. Now let's go over students. So students, they have properties, right? And to actually customize them, we can do two things. We can make instance variables and class variables. Instance variables are the properties that the user can pass in, and to create instance variables, you need what's called an init method. Now what init does is it defines everything that is in student. You can literally see right there. Oh, whoops. Yeah, declared in student. So self. So what properties would a student have? A student would have their eye color. We can just call it E, or we'll call it I. F name, L name, so first name, last name, and age. Now, what we can do, this is much the same as a function. This is a special function called init, and the class recognizes that. So when you create an instance, we'll go over instances. When you create an instance of the class, it automatically executes this function and asks for the properties. And I'll go over what self is, because you don't actually need to pass that in. So you do self dot. So you do self dot, and then you do the variable. So self dot I equals I. In fact, we'll call it I color. So what this is doing is it's transferring your I that you passed in, and it's saving it as a variable called I color with self. And what self does is it makes that property or method or whatever else unique to that instance of the class. It references that particular instance, and we'll go over what instances are. So self dot first name, so we can make these different, equals F name. I just put them shorter here because it's shorter to type. Self dot last name equals L name, and self dot age equals age. So now you have just defined instance variables, and as I said before, instance variables are unique to the one instance of the class. So now we can actually create an instance of the student, and I've been referencing instance a lot, so we should go over it. So let's create Bill, and Bill is a new student. So you do Bill equals student, and we could just do that, but we have to pass in everything, because like I said, when you create an instance of a class, it automatically reads the init method, and by convention, we put it at the very top. So we need to pass in whatever we have here. So we don't pass in the self at all. The self is always going to have to be the first method passed in, and then Python knows that you don't pass it in because that is the the instance variable. Yeah. So you can call self whatever you want, but like by convention we call it self. So you can do I is green eyes. First name, well, we're gonna have to call it Bill. We don't have to. It's just that was pretty obvious, but you know, Bill Gates, Bill Gates, who is 45. I don't actually know his real name, age, but anyway, 45. We'll put that there. 10 actually. Okay, so now you've created a student called Bill, and Bill has the instance variables properties, which are properties, green Bill Gates 10. So we can do print Bill dot age, and if we run this, it prints 10. And so Bill has his age, and that is just simple printing a property. You can also replace this age with a method. We can call this Bill run, and we can we can just do Bill.run, and we can create a method up here called run. Whoops. And we can create a method up here called run, and when we do Bill.run, it would run the run method. So that's what a method is. The method is a function, and the properties are the variables. And I'll go over the other type of variables. So we've done instance variables, the variables with self that are unique to that class, that instance. And you know, we could create a new student called Siri with a totally different name, a totally different eye color, and a totally different age. We could do the same things we do with Bill. So that's what actually makes classes quite useful. So those are instance variables. We'll go over class variables. Actually, no, we'll go over class variables later in the video. We'll go over a simple method. So we can do def create email. And create email will create an email using what we passed in, the name, because emails are normally your name. So we can create email, and we remember we always need to pass self in. And self, as I said before, makes it unique to the class. So create email will be different for each class. And we can do go print. Actually, no. Self.email. So this creates a variable instead. Self.email equals self dot. So when we're referencing a variable, we've always got to put self. Exactly what we put there. We don't have to actually call this self. We can call it Bill, and then we'd have to do Bill.firstname, but it's just for an instance variable by convention itself, like I said. So for an email, it would be this format. Self.lastname plus at student.education there we go, dot state.edu dot country. And that is just the simple format for the email. And now if we do Bill, actually no, print, so Bill dot email. So Bill is now replacing self because Bill is the instance. Now you will see that it's an error. This will raise an error. because Bill does not have an attribute of email. But if we do this, Bill's capital, Bill dot create, email, there, and you can see that it actually does print the email. So that is that is the simplest way of doing it. Now that is quite inconvenient, because you just want to be able to print Bill's email. You shouldn't have to create it first. And how we could actually do that is we can just go Control X, self.email equals, and we can go print email, self.email. Now all we got to do is go all the way up here, and we go self.email equals what we put before. And now inside the init, we're actually creating an email. Even though we're not passing anything in, we're still creating the email. So in the init, you don't actually have to pass in everything. But if we do pass it in, then we should do the self. So if we debug this now, it has the same results. So can't drag this up. There we go. So that has the exact same result. It's bill.gates@student.education.state.edu.country. That just makes it way neater, because all you have to do is print self.email. So that is quite good, actually. And now, because this actually did print bill.email, we shouldn't do that. We should do bill.print. I just changed that to print, so because we're not creating it anymore, we created it up there. And that's simple. Now one more thing I want to actually tell you. Let's debug this. See, it doesn't do anything, so you always need the parentheses. Yeah. Now one more thing. Inside the methods, we can actually make the pass something int. We can pass whatever we want. So I'll create another one. So we'll keep print email. Then we'll do def raise. Actually, no, I'll go over class variables first, because we'll use raise grade later. Okay, so we've gone over instance variables, and instance variables are different for every student, whether their name is Bill, Bob, George, Jeffrey, Alexa, whatever. So they're the same for they're different for each student. But what if you wanted each student to have a default presetting? So let's go up here. Let's do default grade. Actually, I'll just call it grade. Grade equals 0.0. So this is the float grade, and it's 0.0. And what grade does is it's the same for every single instance of the class. So if we do this, print bill.grade, it should print 0.0. So Bill has a grade, and that is 0.0. And if we did one more example, let's do Siri. Siri equals a new student with unknown eyes, just for change. Siri, Alexa, 27. And if we do print Siri.grade and we debug this, it prints the Bill's grade and Siri's grade, and they're both the same because this is a class variable. The class shares the grade 0.0. Every instance of the class shares the 0.0 as their grade. Now we can further expand this by being able to customize the grade. So right now it has a default. So now we can create our new method, def raise grade, and we can do self, and we can do raise amount. A keyword, raise amount, and we don't just need self. We can pass in whatever we want. We don't just have to pass it in the init. But what you will notice is when you actually try and execute raise grade, you'll need to pass in the raise amount. So we can do self dot grade plus equals raise amount. So plus equals adds raise amount to the grade. So now if we run this, oh wait, we should do bill dot raise grade, and we can do, how much do we want to raise it by? 100. It's going to get 100%. Oh, whoops, did I put a lowercase a? Yes, I did. Okay. So now you can see that Bill has 100, and actually I'll just comment this out, so there we go. And we can see that Bill has 100, Siri still has 0. Now, if we do one more thing, we can actually go down and just do that, and I'll move everything up. Now, if we actually do print student dot grade, if we run this, 0. So student dot grade, student is the name of the class, and student comes preset with 0, and we can actually customize it and change it. And what self dot grade does is it actually changes the grade, because the grade was a class variable, but by adding self to the start, you're making it a instance variable that Bill owns. And to show this in a bit more context, you can actually go print bill.dict, and if we run this, okay, oh wait, one more thing, bill.raise grade, and then we can do Control C, Control V, and might be a bit hard to see the bottom, so I'll just add it there. And if we debug this, okay, so this is a dictionary of the name, so you can see that Bill's eye color is green, Bill's first name is Bill, last name is Gates, age is 10, blah 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 blah, all of it. And you could see that in the first dictionary example, before we raise the grade, Bill doesn't actually have a variable himself called grade. He doesn't have a variable called grade. But after we raise the grade and we print the dictionary, you can see that he now has the variable grade. And that's what self essentially does. It gives him the grade. And, you know, we can do that with Siri as well. So that's just a really neat and handy trick, printing dicts. So that's two of our first methods, and we could do loads more stuff really. One thing actually is if I put self.grade, you'll notice that if I debug it, it's gonna create an error because you can't put self outside the init. Self will always be inside the init unless it's part of a method. So we shouldn't all, on the contrary actually, if we put this over there, it'll also make an error because you're putting something that is not belonging to that instance. So init will have instances, and you can't put self dot variable outside, and you can't put variable inside. So that's just vice versa, opposite. So that's our first video on classes. So, you know, we have methods and we have the properties, and we can change the variables, you know, class variables and instance variables. Yeah, but one more thing actually. So we can actually use the delete keyword to delete variables, properties of the instances. So we can go delete bill dot age, and then we can try printing Bill's age, and we can see that it probably won't work. There's no attribute age, and because we deleted the age of Bill, so we deleted Bill's age. Yeah, so we deleted Bill's age, and so that's just a quick keyword. And yeah, so that's just the delete keyword. Anyway, so when we create the instances, if you didn't actually understand, you can do the same thing with the same methods on anything. So we can just go, instead of printing student's grade, actually one more thing, if we do print student dot, that's not a dot, is it, dict, and we debug this, start with that debugging. Student object has no attribute. Oh yes, whoops, I got rid of the grade, didn't I? Grade equals 0.0. Debug, start with that debugging. And you can see it's got a lot of useful stuff, useless stuff, not useless, but you know, memory, where it is in memory, lots of stuff. But you can see that it also has the grade. We don't have to do anything because the student has the grade. The class owns the grade. So that wraps it up for this video on classes. And I'll be doing another video on classes next week, which will go over, you know, inheritance and a bit more in depth on classes, I guess. Oh yeah, you may have also noticed that I'm using Visual Studio as the editor now. It's a bit easier. So yeah, that wraps it up for this video, and we'll see you in the next video.